But probably the most prominent of the Jewish Dominionists, beside the Jewish Home Party and the Chabad movement and others, is probably Lehava, or the followers of Meir Kahane, the founding father of Israeli fascism. So Lehava, if you can imagine this, they are an anti-miscegenationist movement. I have to parse that because some people may not have any idea what I'm talking about. Miscegenation is like a laundered term. It's a way that racists explain their racism, or when they oppose race mixing. A scientific way of saying that is you're against miscegenation. So these people patrol the streets of Israel, harassing and haranguing and assaulting mixed couples if they see Jewish people and Palestinian people coupling off, flirting and falling in love. Now, you'd think that they would be outliers, but no. In fact, they're brought into the Knesset, and not just by anyone, but by who have become Israel's top diplomats. On the left, we have Tzipi Hotovely, who is Israel's acting foreign minister. And on the right, we have Dani Danon, Israel's ambassador to the United Nations. So Israel's top diplomats, she invited them to come in, he hosted their meeting, and they are called in to be expert witnesses, to give expert testimony on this plague of miscegenation that's occurring in Israel, you know. And I'll explain how it manifests in society. So this is Moral, a Jew, I wouldn't say a Jewish, I want to say Israeli who is the daughter of Jewish citizens of Israel. And she fell in love with Mahmoud, who is the son of Muslim citizens of Israel. I don't say she's Jewish and he's Muslim, because who knows what they really feel in their hearts. I didn't quiz them on their spiritual inclinations. These are determined racially. It's because her parents were Jewish that she's called Jewish. It's because his parents were Muslim. And because of that, they're not allowed to marry in the state of Israel, because there's no such thing as civil marriage. And it's not accidental, it's on purpose. Because the state, although it cast out many of the ideas of Orthodox Judaism, it retained its opposition to intermarriage. And so there's no way that non-Jewish and non-Jewish people can get married within the state of Israel. If you have enough money, you can fly to some other country and bring your family there and then get married, you know, at Berkeley City Hall, I guess, and then return, and it's a fait accompli. But there's no way you can do that in Israel. And so that's a disincentive. And so in any case, at their wedding, if you can imagine this, and I was there and I documented this, and it's online, you can check it out on my YouTube channel, you actually had the Lehava group inviting their activists from all around the country to protest the wedding. And on their wedding day, you had hundreds of Jewish Israelis screaming "Death to the Arabs," chanting "Death to the Arabs" outside the wedding hall. This is Israel 2015. Now, bad enough that this exists, okay? But what's worse is that they also have received state funding. So in recent years, they've received up to the equivalent of $166,000 from the Israeli government. And I'm sad to say, the American people also play a small role in this, because there are charities here that operate with tax exemption, and they've raised $234,000 in a year that go to the sister organization of Lehava to pay for the legal representation, because sometimes, on occasion, when they attack in the case, for example, of that Jewish Arab school that was torched, that was done by members of Lehava. And when they were taken to court, they had legal representation. Their legal fees were provided by this group that is funded in part by donations that are tax exempt, thanks to the American taxpayer like yourself. So the leader of Lehava, Benzi Gopstein, he was asked straight up, because no beating around the bush here, are you in favor of burning churches in the land of Israel, yes or no? They were clearly the prime suspects when people saw that these churches were being torched, and he said straight up, no shame around it, yes, you have to burn, yes, of course. Simply ask, why are you even asking? You have any doubt? So there's not much of an effort to conceal the game plan here. Now you have to ask yourself, why isn't this reported in the mainstream media? Why do I have to fly all the way over here from Israel and burn all these fossil fuels to tell you this? Are there no other journalists that are capable of reading and writing and speaking fluent Hebrew and English simultaneously? No one? I find that hard to believe. And so, Benzi Gupstein, the leader of Lehava, the group, their slogan, their motto is Kahana Tzadak, or Kahana was right. Again, a reference to the founding father of Israeli fascism, Meir Kahana, and he was actually a member of the Knesset back in the 1980s. The same shtick, same kinds of props that he'd use. Now, Kahana, at the time, his views were actually perceived to be beyond the pale, over the top, disgusting even by the standards of the Israeli right wing. So when he came to Knesset and made his racist proposals, you had a member of the ruling Likud party, Netanyahu's own party, Michael Eitan in this case. He challenged Kahana in the Knesset, and he called him out. He said, "You are no different in many ways than Adolf Hitler and the Nazis," he said, on the Knesset floor. He said, let's break it down. Let's make a comparison. Let's look at what you've proposed and what Hitler carried out. Kahana called to cancel the Camp David peace treaty. Hitler wanted to cancel the Versailles peace treaty. Kahana wanted to make the Communist Party illegal, just as it happened in Germany. He wanted to make it illegal to sell non-kosher food in Israel, just as Hitler made it illegal to sell kosher food. He said that non-Jews should not be allowed to live in Jerusalem, just as the Nazis made it illegal for Jews to live in Berlin or Munich. He wanted to make it impossible for non-Jews rather, to vote or hold public office in Israel, just as the Nazis forbade Jews from voting or holding public office in Nazi Germany. He wanted to make it impossible for Jews and non-Jews to study in school together, the same thing in Nazi Germany. Kahana wanted to make it impossible and illegal for Jews and non-Jews to swim. Same with the Nazis. And of course, the classic, he wanted to make it illegal for Jews and non-Jews to marry or even to have sex with one another, just as the Nazis did. So that's the 1980s. At that point, this ideology was considered so disgusting that even Israel's right wing was, repulsed by it. But today, Kahana no longer exists in the flesh. He's passed on, but he's become an icon, and he has legions of followers who can say how large his followers are. But what's certain is that he does have popularity. You go around the country, you'll see graffiti all the time. Kahana Tzadak, Kahana was right, and we see that his visage, his face, has been iconified, and it's not uncommon to see people wearing the slogan Kahana Tzadak and his face on their clothes. Now, anyone can say what they want to. It's free speech. That's all fine and good. But today, those ideas are no longer marginal. You have even Israel's Minister of Culture, Miri Regev. She doesn't have a problem posing with someone who's clearly wearing and talking about Kahanist ideas. All right, it's no longer shameful to be associated with the ideas of Meir Kahana, that even a minister in the government doesn't mind taking a selfie with a Kahanist supporter. Proudly so. Now, as I said, Kahana's dead, but his message lives on in his own grandson. His grandson is also no small terrorist in his own right. He's one of the leading ideologues or activists of the Jewish Dominionists. But let's be honest, he has help. Now, a few years back, he was playing cat and mouse with the Israeli army. The Israeli army was trying to prevent the expansion of us. The settlement expansion was happening all the time, but it wasn't happening fast enough for the Jewish Dominionists. And they resented this, so they actually were attacking elements of the Israeli army itself to prevent the withdrawal from a settlement. And so as he and his friends are attacking army outposts and army vehicles, you have this man actually sending him text messages explaining to him where the army units are going to be so that they can easily evade their patrols and get away clean. Well, how did this man happen to know where the army was going to be? It just so happens it's not just an average citizen. We're talking about someone who's now a minister in the government, someone who at that time was the Likud party whip and the government whip, the coalition whip, Ze'ev Elkin. He was giving him messages telling him how to evade. I mean, in other countries this would be called treason, but he continues to serve and it has since been promoted. So this is the political culture. And talk about the Dawabsha family. What will happen? It's been months since that family was burnt, since they were put in the ground. Will we see any justice? Will Israeli forces find the perpetrators of this heinous crime? Apparently, according to Israel's defense minister, they know who did it. But he says that although they know who's responsible, they have chosen to prevent legal recourse to protect the identity of the sources, if you can imagine this. You feel me? So they know who did it, but because they have spies among these Jewish supremacist terrorists, and they want to continue having them in position and informing the government of what's going on in their ranks, they want to continue to have access to that information, so they would prefer not to expose their secret agents. And because of that, the Dawabsha family will never see justice, and the murders will go unpunished. So this is the level of justice that Palestinian people can expect in Israel.